All right, here we are at the JB&A Today Show live episode. It's our pre-NAB edition. So we're in Vegas. NAB is coming up in 2 days, so we figured we'd get the ball rolling early. With me on the show today is Dave Clack from Square Box.
Hey.
Now, if you don't know Square Box, Square Box is our cup sponsor today. They make these lovely mugs. No, I'm kidding.
Cool.
So they are the makers of CatDV,
Yep.
the world's best media asset management for not just post-production world, but for a much broader scale.
Yeah,
And we'll talk a little bit.
Production, distribution, all sorts.
All over the board. Okay, so we got all kinds of fun stuff to talk about. So we should probably roll into it. So first, let's look at like the bullet list of stuff, which is all the new integrations you guys have done.
Yeah.
So Aspera and there's Veritone, Backblaze, Caringo, but you've done some work with SAML now with doing dual, two-factor authentication.
Yeah, so CatDV, we aspire to be the best connected asset management tool in the business, and so there are about 10 new integrations that we're launching at the show today. And you've mentioned a few of them. SAML 2 is really interesting because it enables things like single sign-on and two-factor authentication for folks with suitable identity management systems. And that's really cool because security is so crucial with this content being so valuable.
Well, just look at all the security breaches of the last couple of years, and nobody wants to be liable, right? So you guys have really locked it down to say we're giving more enterprise features to that crowd, and I kind of think it really takes the post-production world and starts to elevate their game when you're saying, hey guys, you have to be thinking about this.
Yeah.
Now it's embedded in the software, which is great.
Yeah, and as more workflows have at least a cloud component in them, even if some's on-premise and there's these hybrid models coming in, folks need to have the confidence that their content is going to be safe. Yep. And so these kind of two-factor authentication models and identity management models are really critical for these workflows to be enabled.
I think so. It's interesting. So hybrid workflows, because that's really, everybody is like cloud, cloud, cloud. But the reality is we have to be living in both. We have to have a foot in both ponds, basically, right? In the cloud and on-premise. And you guys are doing a great job of that. You've got the ability to be in the cloud or run hybrid workflows.
Right. So we've got this kind of challenge going on. Everything's moving to the cloud. It's really good for low cost. It's really good for accessibility. But at the same time, more content's being created at higher bandwidths and higher bit rates than ever before. So we've got 8K content, and that's all going to be created from all these cameras, multi-cam cameras. How are we going to get all this content into the cloud efficiently? So you're going to need some hybrid workflows for the foreseeable future to be able to manage that volume of growing media.
Okay, so obviously one of the I guess some of the big ones would be AI. I'm hearing it everywhere. AI is all over the board. How are you guys attacking AI?
AI is so cool. Yeah. So if you imagine asset management for the last 10 years, then we've been starved of metadata. We've got some cool tools. We can extract intelligence from file names or from spreadsheets or however folks have been getting by before they had true asset management. Now we have this huge deluge of metadata that's becoming available to us, whether it's speech to text, whether it's analysis of objects or people or places.
Facial detection is my favorite.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, hey, find what's Welsh Waldo with our media, right?
Yeah. So, and that's changing the industry. I think that if it's been a barrier to folks getting into having an asset management tool, it's not just everything to have a container. You need to have the ability to fill that container with great metadata so you can find and retrieve stuff. Well, now some of those barriers are being removed, so that's really cool. And it really helps to move the product on, being able to search transcripts, find much more metadata than before. It's making the product bigger and better. It's really exciting.
Now, I would think for a customer with a large archive, with hundreds of hours or thousands of hours of corporate history or or production history, this is a great way to go in and repurpose that content because you don't need somebody to scour through it. You're going to let the AI handle it and then just extract all the relevant data from that. So it really gives power to an archive.
Yeah, so I heard some statistic that was in a few years' time, only 10% of the content that's actually recorded will ever be watched by a human. And I think that's kind of about right. We all know that everyone's making more and more content year in and year out. That's just not stopping. And how do you manage that content? How do you store it? How do you repurpose it? How do you avoid reshooting it? Well, it needs to be logged and tagged. If you can get AI to do it for you, then you've got something that's enormously cost-effective and valuable. It's great.
Yeah. Okay, so talk to me about Pegasus Worker.
Yeah, so we have 3 lines in all of our products, small, medium and large, Workgroup, Enterprise and Pegasus. And at the show this year, then we're launching our Pegasus Worker. Pegasus Worker is the largest scale worker that we have, so our automation engine that gets folks coding without knowing that they're coding by dragging around boxes and using our user interface to build scripts. Pegasus Worker allows us to run that worker headless, so you can run the user interface on one machine and then the actual engine on another machine. Okay, so what? Well, that means that you can run a nice cloud instance of CatDV Worker on a nice standard Linux VM, which doesn't have a graphical interface or anything, and you can configure it remotely from your Mac or Windows box somewhere else. Or if you're in a data center and you want to monitor a number of workers that are running on different pieces of hardware, you can pull up a user interface that has the status bar for 10 workers, see which ones are performing well and not, and dive into the detail if anything needs to be managed. So that's number 1. And then number 2, we can now farm workers, and so we can make the worker queue much more resilient. So if more jobs need to be done, you can just spin up more workers. If one of the workers falls over, the other ones will pick up the load, and long-running jobs won't slow up the other workers down, and that's a big deal.
Okay, so I want to key in on something that you just said a minute ago, which is we have small, medium, and enterprise in terms of the software. There is no other MAM company that is approaching it that way. You've got MAMs that are all small, right? That maybe sometimes want to be medium, but really they're small, and they're great for a couple of users. You've got MAMs that are in the millions of dollars that can never come down field, but you've built a stack now that allows one guy to grow into 100, and his same software slowly expands over time. I think that's huge, Dave, because that is not something we're seeing in the MAM industry right now. We're seeing it at the top end or at the bottom end or somewhere in the middle, but nobody really covers the full scale with a single stack that can grow with the clients.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, we realized that CatDV was kind of dominating the small to mid-market of asset management tools. And so we found a lot of folks that had small production teams, 5 or 8 people, that were making a lot of use out of CatDV. And then we looked at the market and we saw there were other products out there who actually didn't do anything different from what we did. So what we've then done is built out the scale of CatDV, built out the integration points of CatDV, APIs, plugins with other vendors' products. So now we have this kind of best-of-breed ecosystem that can go large, tens of millions of assets, hundreds of users. Great. So by starting at the lower end and building out from a lean company that hasn't got masses of debt, we're able to really play with the bigger players and offer a much more cost-effective solution. Cost-effective in licenses and cost-effective in terms of support and configuration, because we've started at the small to mid-market and people self-serving, and so when we have to then move up with professional services, it's really easy for us to do that, whereas it's hard for the more expensive players to come down.
And it's not a complete reinstall.
Right.
You're just growing what already exists.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. As a lean company, we have to make it easy for people to upgrade.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so let's talk a couple more things I want us to really hit on. Sports logging, or some of the new extensions for sport environment.
Yeah. So we took a look at our database of customers a while ago, and we realized that we are a leader in sports.
Almost half the NFL.
Half the NFL, so we have basketball, baseball, football, soccer, tennis, horse racing, e-gaming. You know, being able to grab all of that content and quickly view that content, share that content, search that content. We are really good at that, and we kind of realized we are the force behind a whole pile of these professional and college sports organizations. So we decided to work quite closely with a company in the UK that managed a lot of soccer content, and we spent a few days with them listening to what they really wanted to do with CatDV. And we built a few things. We can link fields together, so we can search for whether a game was played at home or away, or whether that team played in either location. So linking fields together so that you can provide more compound searches is really suitable for those kind of organizations. We invested a lot in our live logger, so a button-based logger that's, the goal happened here, the touchdown happened here. That kind of stuff is really easy now in CatDV's web client, so that's big. Yeah, and so all those tweaks, those adjustments to make it really useful for those sports organizations has what's driven that.
All right, so a couple other things. We talked a little earlier about customization, and that's really key to kind of the newer enterprise platforms that you're doing. So hit me with that.
Yeah. So over the last 4 years, we have transformed all of the products. We've almost ripped the guts out of them and put them back together so that they are better suited for the future. And what that's enabled us to do is to make CatDV a platform for almost any kind of growth you want. So we have APIs now that let you roll your own CatDV interface. You want to do a review and approve CatDV interface? Use a bit of JavaScript. Put a CatDV search box over here, put a list over here, show this content over here. So you can put together a completely custom user interface at low cost based on all the cool stuff in CatDV that's completely compatible with everything else in the environment. We can also run JavaScript everywhere. So we can run JavaScript to put up forms, to do validation in the web client, in the desktop client. And we can also use JavaScript to do extensions to CatDV in the worker. So you can build a plugin that connects to somebody else's REST API and does stuff. And we've got a few examples of eating our own dog food, if you like. So an MD5 checker, a file path cleaner, a push to YouTube, all written using our own APIs.
Nice.
All that means is CatDV can be the platform to do whatever you want to with it. Yeah. It's not just about, where are my assets? It's a review and approve platform. Right. It's a logging platform for crowdsourcing. It's whatever you want it to be.
Not to get ultra geeky, which I usually do. Yeah. I've likened it over the years to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's the one ring to rule them all, right? It's the central hub to all these spokes going on in your environment, and it all comes back to CatDV being the central hub to it all.
Well, so it's kind of project management tool. So you need a tracking tool to keep control of whether your content is. Is it on primary storage, secondary storage? Is it on LTO, LTFS? Is it on object storage? And just making that really simple to the user, even though that there's a sophisticated storage landscape. How about transcode? Well, we can do some stuff. We can work with Root 6, we can work with Telesteam Vantage, we can work with Elemental. And CatDV can control who's doing what transcode when. Choose the best tool for the job. AI, same sort of thing. So I think
it's powerful stuff.
CatDV as the hub is how we view it too.
All right, so what are you most excited about going into NAB this year?
I think it's AI. So we have some really cool stuff to show, and I think everybody's coming to NAB this year looking for AI solutions. So I'm looking forward to those conversations with customers or prospects and hearing how they can really save time, money, and stress, which is what we do, by having these kind of additional logging and tagging tools in their organization. How can it be monetized? How is it really going to transform their businesses? And so we try to listen a lot as an organization, and those are the conversations we are actively listening for this NAB. Awesome.
All right, Dave. Thank you for being here. Love it. So, okay, just real quick for the studio audience that's possibly coming out to NAB this week, what's the booth number? Is it SL5024 still?
5741, I think.
5741. Okay, did shift a little bit. All right, so booth 5741, South Lower. They're in a great spot. You're not far from, I think, like New Tech and a few other big clients there. So lots of fun happening. Come see Dave and the team at NAB. Come check out what they have to hear. If you miss it, well, call us up and we'll do a little webinar and show you what it is. Dave, thanks for being here. Love having you. All right, that's this episode of JB&A Today. We'll see you on the next one. Nothing like letting it linger for a minute there.